Have you ever felt like you've been pushed to the very edge, like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and every option looks like a dead end? I want to tell you a story today, a true story about 4 people who were in that exact situation. It's a story that might just change the way you look at your own challenges. In a time of devastating war and famine, the city of Samaria was under siege. Things were so bad, people were starving, and there was no hope in sight. But just outside the city gate, there were 4 men, lepers, who had been cast out. They were rejected by their families, their friends, and their society. Forced to live in isolation, they were already suffering from their disease, and now, starvation was slowly claiming them. One evening, as twilight settled, they looked at each other, their faces etched with despair. One of them spoke up, his voice barely a whisper. "Why are we just sitting here, waiting to die?" The others looked at him, and he continued, "Look, if we try to go back into the city, we'll die of famine along with everyone else. If we stay here, we'll definitely die of starvation. So what's the point? Let's take a chance. Let's go over to the enemy's camp. The worst they can do is kill us, and we're dying anyway. But what if they spare us? Then, we live." It was a crazy idea, born out of sheer desperation. They had absolutely nothing to lose. So, with their last ounces of strength, weak and trembling with hunger, the 4 rejected men began to walk toward the camp of their enemy. The Arameans, they probably thought this was their final walk, a death march into enemy territory. But then, something incredible, something supernatural happened. As their weary feet shuffled on the dusty ground, God amplified the sound. To the enemy soldiers in the camp, the soft footsteps of 4 sick men didn't sound soft at all. It sounded like a thundering army. They heard the pounding of hooves, the clatter of chariots, the roar of a massive military force approaching. Panic ripped through the camp. "The king of Israel has hired foreign armies to attack us," they screamed. In absolute terror, they dropped everything and ran for their lives, abandoning their tents, their horses, their gold and silver, and most importantly, all their food. The 4 lepers, expecting to be met with swords, arrived at a camp that was completely silent and utterly deserted. What they thought was a walk to their death was actually a walk into a miracle. They couldn't believe their eyes. Tents were filled with food, wine, clothes, and treasures. They ate until their stomachs were full for the first time in ages. They gathered silver and gold, more than they had ever seen. But then, a realization dawned on them. They looked at each other, their faces now glowing with more than just the firelight. "This isn't right," they said. "We're here, enjoying this incredible blessing, while our people back in the city are starving. This is a day of good news, and we can't keep it to ourselves." So, they went back to the city gate and shouted the news. At first, no one believed them, thinking it was a trap, but soon the truth was confirmed. The entire city was saved from starvation, all because 4 rejected, desperate men refused to just sit down and die. There are so many lessons in this. First, rejection from people does not mean rejection from God. Your worth is not determined by who writes you off. Second, when you move in faith, even when you're at your weakest, God can amplify your steps. Your smallest effort can create thunder in the spiritual realm and send your enemies fleeing. Sometimes, the breakthrough you've been praying for is just on the other side of a decision to get up and move, even when you're terrified. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to take that next step. Your miracle walk is waiting. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe for more content that inspires and empowers. See you in the next video.